Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to another movie review for Halloween month. Now, it's probably say another re-review because I reviewed this film long ago, and I wanted to just give it another re-review because it's the 20th anniversary of this film, 2003, 2023. I can't believe it's been 20 years now since this film came out, and I was like, jeez, I was about 12 at the time, because I remember seeing this in theaters with my mom. But age rated R rated. I was 12, R rated, age restricted now, so that's why I had my mom to see it. But I was already watching these films before the movie came out. Reviewing it for the 20th anniversary. I still enjoy the film, and that is of Freddy versus Jason, released in August 2003. And I still enjoy the film on a very fun B slasher level, because it's still the fact, the time when they finally got Freddy Krueger against Jason Voorhees. It was especially a long time it was spent in development hell, But the film, yeah, it's not loved by a lot though. But I think a lot of people like the film because just to see the big fight between Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. And it definitely brought that. It's bloody as hell, definitely gory, and it was a very fun fight. It's very fun the fights between Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. So yeah, and Freddy vs. Jason is directed by Ronnie Yu, who directed Bride of Chucky, and he also directed Jet Li's Fearless. He's also directed a film that I haven't seen in a long time called Warriors of Virtue. I haven't seen that film in a long time though. But Ronnie Yu, because the fact that he directed Bride of Chucky, but before this though, which honestly I like this a lot better than Bride of Chucky because the years since I reviewed that film last, I said before. The last time I reviewed that film, it was as a regular review, but if I review it again, because it will be a rant this time, because the years have dwindled, making me like it. I like the film less and less and less, to the point where I just don't like the film no more. But I would still say, I definitely say Freddy vs. Jason is a lot better than Bride of Chucky. But it was a big hit when it came out, made about 30-some million its opening weekend. It already made its budget already back in its opening weekend. Made about 80 to 90 million in the U.S. and worldwide 115 million. So yeah, that was considered a hit. Of course, if they did a crossover film nowadays, maybe it would have been a bigger hit though. But it is kind of one of those early ones where, unlike today, like the MCU crossovers or whatever, like in the multiverse of stuff nowadays, right? But it did a film like this back then, though. I'm sure if it did it today, I'm sure it would have been a much bigger hit, though. But the film has spent a lot of years in development, with multiple script issues, rewrites, trying to pick a good story to put these two together. I think a lot of times it was trying to deal with a cult, a Freddy Krueger cult, or was it Jason Voorhees cult, or when Jason Voorhees in court. It was multiple scripts, until they finally picked one that seems suitable. That in this story we got here is that, which kind of makes sense. We have Robert Englund coming back as Freddy Krueger, especially the last time he played the character until 2018 or so, when he came back as the character in an episode of The Goldbergs. If you don't count that though, but technically this would have been the last appearance as Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. Which, by the way, he once again always does a good job. Once again, a great job as Freddy Krueger. Still having the good, fun Freddy Krueger vibe, It was a little more serious, and he was a bit more dark and serious in this, but, it still has a little bit of comedic moments in it as well. So, but anyway, Freddy Krueger, we get flashbacks, to the multiple, supposed to this takes place in the universe of the old Nightmare on Elm Street films, because you have the flashbacks of all the the Nightmare on Elm Street films of him getting defeated and his killing stuff, right? And because now this time people have forgotten who he was, and no one to be afraid of him, give him the fear that fuels his power, right? So he wants to have someone to to cause fear and to make them remember that it's him, right? So he brings Jason Voorhees back to life by imposing as his mother, Pamela Voorhees. Originally, they were going to have Betsy Palmer come back as Mrs. Voorhees, though. But I guess it was like money issues, or maybe she couldn't do it. I forget. It's in the Crystal Lake. I think it's in the Crystal Lake Memories documentary. You know. But I think it was money issues. I think that she couldn't. Reason why she didn't want to do. She couldn't come back for it. Which is too bad, though. I mean, because hey, I would love to see Betsy Palmer once again playing Mrs. Voorhees, you know. But they have what was her name? Who played Mrs. Voorhees in this one? I just want to get it right, you know. Yeah, I should have done this before I always tend to do doing this, you know, before I do the videos. Paula Shaw. Paula Shaw as plays Mrs. Voorhees in this. I mean, I would say she wasn't that bad, even it was a brief appearance though. But she wasn't that bad. But it would have been nice to see. It would have been nice to see Betsy Palmer to come back though. So he poses as his mother, amazing to rise up, you know, and go to Elm Street because the kids there have been naughty. So he goes because I think we're now because I've heard that Crystal Lake is in New Jersey because for I think it was, and then so he basically had to walk all the way to Springwood, Ohio. Because they had to drive later they had to make the long drive all the way over to Crystal Lake, so he basically had to walk all the way to Springwood, Ohio. And then I will still say one of the issues I have with the film, I still say to this day, is the characters. The characters are not much to run home about, sad to say. I mean, you have the lead girl, Monica Keena as Lori. She was not much. I mean, compared to other Elm Street or Friday the 13th leads, you know, like Friday the 13th, like Part 2, Amy Steele, I think she's the best. I think she's like the best final girl in the Friday the 13th films. I think she's my favorite. I would say she's my favorite final girl of the. Learn how to talk right again. She's my favorite final girl of the Friday the 13th films. I think she was just much better than Monica Keena, or in the Nightmare on Elm Street, like Heather Langenkamp or Lisa Wilcox as Alice in the Nightmare on Elm Street films from Part 4 and 5, The Dream Child and The Dream Master. Although not a fan of number 5 though, but still, Lisa Wilcox I like better, or Heather Langenkamp, you know. We got Jason Ritter, which Ronnie Yu, who's the son of John Ritter, which Ronnie Yu used John Ritter in Bride of Chucky, which I still miss John Ritter. I'm sad to say though, Jason Ritter, he doesn't. Sad to say he still doesn't have the bit of the talent that his father had. I'm sorry to say. I still stand by that. I made people disagree though, but John Ritter, you know, I miss John Ritter dearly. And because, you know, from Three's Company, and I know from among other stuff he's been doing from Stephen King's It. But especially it was sad to see him die by Chucky, you know, in Bride of Chucky. It was sad to see that though. But sorry, Jason Ritter, he still wasn't not that good, honestly. But he's like the characters. You have other ones like you have Kelly Rowland as Kia. Christopher Marquette as Linderman. Brendan Fletcher, actually, I do. Actually, I did not mind Brendan Fletcher, who plays the character Mark, where him and Jason Ritter were in the mental institution, where that was the same, which is the same mental institution from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. And of course, they also been taking Hypnosil, for not having dreams. Hypnosil was also referenced, and also in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, trying to keep that connection together in continuity. But I would say Brendan Fletcher, recently I did not mind him when last year when I was like, oh wait, that was him in Violent Night. In Violent Night, the film with David Harbour as Santa Claus. John Leguizamo with the bad guy, right? He was one of the bad guys. John Leguizamo was henchman. I was like, wait, is that Brendan Fletcher? Wow, I didn't, because he had the full beard and the long hair, so I didn't recognize him. But yeah, Brendan Fletcher, known for playing Grady from the Goosebumps, the Werewolf of Fever Swamp, and he was also in Air Bud. Among other films, a couple of Uwe Ball films, like Alone in the Dark or the Rampage films. No, not the ones from the monster films like 2018, but the other films from Uwe Ball called Rampage. So I didn't mind Brendan Fletcher. He's like the one who's like the expert on the knowledge on Freddy Krueger, right? And then that's pretty much mostly of the cast. I mean, and also you have another. I think some of this was filmed in Vancouver or Canada, right? Because you got some of the actors from the Goosebumps series, like Brendan Fletcher from the Werewolf of Fever Swamp. There's also Catherine Isabelle who plays this girl. Gibb was also one of the friends of Monica Keena. Like she's one who like drinks and smokes, right? And when Freddy Krueger tries to get her in her dream, Jason Voorhees ends up killing her. She was also in Goosebumps from It Came From Beneath the Sink. With the sponge that causes bad luck. And then you also have Kyle Labine, who plays like the hippie-ish guy, kind of looks like personally like Jason Mewes, right? From Jay and Silent Bob. He's like a Jason Mewes impersonator, but he plays the character Freeberg, the always smoking, the weed stuff, but he was also in Goosebumps. He was mostly known from me. I recognize him starting from the Monster Blood episodes, Part 1 and Part 2, like Monster Blood, and then Part 2, more Monster Blood when it was on the plane. I was like, oh yeah, so you get a couple of Goosebump actresses from there, like I said, Brendan Fletcher from Werewolf of Fever Swamp, Kyle Labine from Monster Blood, and Catherine Isabelle from It Came Beneath the Sink. But overall, their characters, were not that great either, sad to say. But the character, people really don't care much about these characters. They want to just focus on the battle between Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees, which we got though. Robert Englund coming back as Freddy Krueger. At this time he was like 55, when he did this role in this time. But he still did a really good job as Freddy Krueger. Ken Kirshner as Jason Voorhees, which originally they wanted Kane Hodder to come back, which I would like to see Kane Hodder come back in this role to fight against Robert Englund. But I guess it was I forget. Maybe it was creative differences. I forget. I have to rewatch the Crystal Lake Memories documentary again. But Ken Kirshner, which he also before this, he was also in Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. By the time when they were in New York and Kane Hodder's Jason crashes through the wall of this diner, this big cook comes in and he points a finger at him. Then Jason goes and just tosses him against the wall. That was Ken Kirshner. Yeah, from when the Jason threw against the wall in the diner in Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. So you steal my job? That was like a pre-thing, But he still did fine as Jason Voorhees. He's still a big, big guy still, and he's still fine. Although I wasn't particularly big on the Jason's version of the mask, though. I think I prefer the one from the other versions, though. But I still did not mind the Voorhees mask in that. But people just pretty much focus on those, right? Yeah, so that's one of the main things is the characters are not that much to run home about still. But they're trying to figure out what's going on. Bees do get some pretty gory kills, like with Catherine Isabelle's shitty boyfriend. Jason Voorhees stabs him multiple times with a machete, and then folds the bend. He bends backwards into a V shape. That was a good kill. And by the time they thought, they assume it's Freddy Krueger, dying in bed, in the cornfield where where Catherine Bigelow, before she falls asleep and she's getting tormented by Freddy Krueger, he was about to kill her, but when Jason Voorhees intervenes and stabs her, also with this glow stick guy was about to rape her, but he gets impaled both of them and he tosses that guy out. And then that's when Freddy Krueger gets frustrated, you know. Or the guy Blake, you know, where Freddy Krueger tries to get him, but he was not strong enough though. But Jason cuts his father's head off, and he tries to use his father's head as a shield, but he dies. Blood splatter over the window. And then the rest of the cornfield with these two guys, like the one guy, you know, where Jason snaps his head, other way CG style though. I mean, I would still say probably I mentioned in Exorcist the Believer, where that priest, where those two possessed girls make the priest's head turn with twist. I also say that it looked a little bit better though, because this was more of a digital. This is more digital CG head twist in this one. That's still, I'm not giving no brownie points to Exorcist the Believer. That still was a shit film. This is much better than Exorcist Believer. And I would say Ronnie Yu was a better horror director than this, than freaking David Gordon Green, because David Gordon Green can direct horror for shit, you know, okay? He just stopped directing horror films. He's now a horror director. Stick to doing comedies. Ronnie Yu, I will still even say, even as much as I don't like Bride of Chucky anymore, was much better than Exorcist Believer, or any of the Halloween movies for that matter. At least he still had, because Ronnie Yu is a much better horror director than David Gordon Green is. I'll still say that. Yeah. So, because I hate the Exorcist Believer. I reviewed that film. That's the most boring Exorcist film. Anyway, that's another tangent. I already talked about that. But anyway, but then the guy sets him on fire. Then it's a pretty good stunt where the stuntman is as Jason is on fire, right? Good stunt work. Actual fire for real, not CG fire. And he starts killing all these people left and right, and then figure out it's this Freddy Krueger or it's Jason Voorhees. So they have a plan to try to. First, they had to stop dreams, so they had to not having dreams, so they had to go to the institution for the hypnosil. And that's where we get this another issue with where Freeberg, the Jason Mewes impersonator, sees this bad CGI Fred Krueger caterpillar smoking a bong. I also see that's another issue. That's one a nitpick I have is still the CGI Fred caterpillar is still not good at all. It's still not. And then he gets up in his mouth and possessing him, and the cop gets electrocuted by Jason, but doesn't faze him. So the possessed Freeburger by Freddy tranquilizes him, but he ends up getting cut in half. Good kill as well, being cut in half. It's just funny how tranquilizers work, but bullets don't. Which is kind of funny. It's just the same thing in freaking Michael Myers and Halloween 5. Tranquilizers work, but bullets don't. That's still a funny thing. And so then you get the first fight between Krueger and Voorhees, where in Jason's dream in the boiler room, and Fred Krueger, being the shit out of Jason, welcome to my nightmare. And then you get the funny moment where I will still say I get the idea because Fred Krueger's also being humorous as well, knocking Jason through the air, like he's playing pinball, right? You hear the pinball sound effects, right? I know it's probably not because Freddy Krueger was playing a game in Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. I get that it's supposed to be that's still part of that humorous part of Freddy Krueger. I mean, it's still it's not the worst idea from Freddy Krueger. It's not though, but I'm not big on the whole pinball idea though. But I get what it means, because like I said, he played a video game and Freddy's Dead, right? So being a little more comedic version of him, So, and then makes this thing fall on him, and then he's still alive, and he goes and says, "Why won't you die?" And this is the part where it makes no sense. Even still today, yes, even a lot of people say it still makes no sense. Where Jason gets stopped by water. It's supposed to be his weakness, right? Because, he drowned in water, right? And Freddy Krueger died by fire, the opposites, fire and water, right? But still, it doesn't make no sense at all that why would he stop water? Why is he afraid of water? Even though in past films we've seen him swim in water. Part 7, he swam and dragged a girl down into the lake. Or Part 4, he swam to stab a woman through a raft. Or in Part 6, he walked into the water to try to get Tommy on a boat. In Part 8, he swam up to the boat for most of the movie, and he swam the rest when he was in New York, Yeah, even though that still doesn't make any sense. I think, yeah, even the writers of this film knew that didn't make any sense, though, but it was kind of like the best idea they came up with. But I get fire, water, right, but it still doesn't make no sense. Even a lot of people, I would agree with a lot of people, it doesn't make no sense at all. And then we see him him as a kid with a mask. Yes. At least he didn't turn into a normal kid like he was in Part 8 from the freaking toxic waste every single night, at midnight. But at least he didn't turn into a normal kid. He still had his deformed face. But Freddy Krueger's still having fun, and he was like, "You little shit. Now there's a face only a mother will love." So he tries to go into push him further in his dream, and then Monica Kina tries to go in his dream, tries to help him. And we get this little stunt performance from Freddy, who jumps out of the water. Again, this is like this little demon. It has like a demon face now, which cool looking design of Fred as this demon face. So, and then eventually they pull him out of the dream. They get to Crystal Lake, and it learns that Fred killed Monica Kina's mom. Killed her mom, and then when he gets pulled out of the dream, and then you get into another great fight, in the cabin where it's on fire. Jason's like dragging across the windows, throwing him. And other characters like Linderman, he gets stabbed because he gets tossed back, he bleeds to death. The girl Kia, he gets Jason slashes her and sends her tossing into this tree, which is very, I don't get this very shaky style camera work. I still don't get that. But the fight between Jason and Voorhees is still great, I still enjoyed it, Like, Freddy is, like, punching, kicking Jason. Then with the tanks, man, the torpedoes. And then he's on top of the construction site where they're trying to rebuild Crystal Lake. And Freddy Krueger's like, "Hey, asshole, up here." And Jason Voorhees doesn't, when you think about it, Jason Voorhees doesn't get much hits on Fred, Well, he does get a couple slashes at him, though, but it's mostly Freddy Krueger is beating the crap out of him. And then to the point where, Freddy Krueger cuts his fingers off, stabs him in the eyes. And that's when Michael Kina lights the dock on fire. "Freddy, go to hell." And it's when Jason punches into Freddy and rips his arm off. And then that's when the whole dock explodes, and both sends them both flying in the air on fire, which actually that stunt actually got nominated for a best stunt like that. It was cool to see both of them flying while on fire for real. And then Jason stabs Fred with his own arm, and then that's when Monica Kina says, "Welcome to my world, bitch," like he told her before, and then cuts his head off. Which, of course, that quote is used later in the remake that Nancy says in a very shitty way, Yeah, they steal stuff from Freddy vs. Jason, So, yeah, but she cuts his head off, and then they get out, and then that's when Jason, the next morning, Jason walks up, which he's in the water, but he's not drowning, he's not afraid of the water, But he's carrying his head. That's when Fred winks at the camera, laughing. Yeah, so I still enjoy the film. 20 years later, I still enjoy the film. Yeah, the characters are not great, Yeah, the CGI Fred Caterpillar was not that good at all. But it was still great to see these two iconic characters face to face in a bloody battle, Robert Englund still does a really good job as Freddy Krueger, as he always does. Ken Kersner as Jason, he still was fine, but I just wish I preferred it was. I wish it was Kane Hodder. Betsy, and the same thing I prefer. I wish it was Betsy Palmer who had that small cameo as Mrs. Voorhees. But the score by Granville, I thought it was fine, and it's a short film. I think it's on for how long? It's 98 minutes, so without end credits, it's about within like 90 minutes. And this is a 2-disc edition. I forgot to mention, there's a 2-disc edition as well. But yeah, 20 years later, I still enjoy Freddy vs. Jason. I can still watch it just for the thing is the bloody battle between Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. Sad to say, there was this talk of a sequel, with Freddy vs. Jason versus Ash Williams from Evil Dead, Bruce Campbell. I would love to have seen that though. But sadly though, they never got off the ground, so they made a sequel as a comic series. So, as I still said, I still would have liked to see Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, I would like to see, like, Bruce Campbell go up against them, But, sadly, that's never happened. It'll never happen, because it's years too late now anyway. Robert Englund, he's in his 70s, and Bruce Campbell, he's up there in age too, so whoever the rights or whatever issues, it should have done that happened like in the later 2000s. But sadly, we'll never get that though. Only in a comic series. Which that sucked, But anyway, Freddy vs. Jason, still had fun with the film. So yeah, 20th anniversary re-review of Freddy vs. Jason. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. Later.